and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores and iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. This app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Tonight's guest is a national team member that has gone on a couple of trips with me now. Fred, how you doing tonight?
What's going on? How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for coming on the show, especially Valentine's weekend.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off the same way I start off every episode of Champions Corner. You're going to tell us a little bit about how you got involved in Taekwondo, how you got involved in kickboxing, and how that progressed to becoming a member of the national team.
Sure. So it started back 2012, I guess. I was diagnosed with cancer and decided that after I made it past that, I was going to make a change in my life. My now 15-year-old son, I think was about 7 or 6 at the time, joined in Taekwondo. And so after going and watching him do his thing for a little bit, I thought it would be a good idea to give it a shot myself. I had done Kempo when I was probably 17, 18, went through a couple of belts, but then decided to do a career instead of training. So, so I joined in Taekwondo myself. Got in with Chuck McCarthy and those guys who you know very well, and started with Taekwondo only first, and then got introduced to kickboxing, and then decided may as well do both. So I trained Taekwondo mainly, but started in on the kickboxing, and pretty much took myself about 2 years before I really got into more. I liked the kickboxing more, the style. Wanted to keep up with the Taekwondo though, because obviously I wanted to obtain a black belt and have a goal set. So I kept working at it, and I think about 2 or so years in, I made a run at the national team for kickboxing. So I went to Ireland for Worlds 2015, that was.
You forgot to say that you won at Nationals.
Oh, I did Nationals, came after.
Oh, right. I forgot you did opposite order. Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm backwards for everything. No, so I went to Worlds my first time, first major event of kickboxing, and had a run-in with Russia in my first round, which ended out okay for me, thankfully.
Yes, thankfully.
Ended up finishing third out of I think 11 competitors that year. So kept at my black belts. I'm a second degree now, and hoping to keep going. I don't plan on stopping right now, but my main goal right now is kickboxing, so I enjoy it more.
So Frank, like one of your first big, huge fights was on a world stage, and obviously like the competition in Canada and the competition in the world stage for anyone who's ever transitioned to that is kind of like a huge smack in the face. You really realize like the level of talent out there, how like some of these fighters are like training out of shacks for 4 hours a day because they see like professional career ahead of them in kickboxing. So what was it like for you? Like the atmosphere, the huge crowd, the fancy lights. How was that?
It was overwhelming. I can remember the night before when they call out, who's fighting who for the next day. And of course, it was always a big joke that you didn't want to fight Russia in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it never fails for me anyways. I always get the good ones. So it came out that I was fighting Russia and that I had multiple fights that day. So I was the first fight in the morning, walked into the stadium, and it's a massive venue in Ireland there. Um, Lots of people, lots of, obviously, so many countries, people all from all over the world, and they're yelling, they're screaming, they've got their chants, and you're walking out, and of course you stepping onto the mat, and you've got your team cheering for you, and you got the other team cheering for him, and it's a lot to take in. Like I said, my first fight worked out well, and it set the way for that part. But when my second fight came that evening, again, it was still really overwhelming, and I was trying to shake out the cobwebs type of thing, but didn't go my way that second one. So, but hey, it was my first world event, my first real major event, and it came out okay. So, and it really gave me an incentive then to continue on.
It definitely teaches you like how like physically and mentally exhausting like competing at that kind of a level on that kind of a stage really is. And especially when you're fighting twice in one day, because it's such an adrenaline ditch just to get there.
Yeah.
Like fighters have to pee 1,000 times before they get into the ring. You're like sweating profusely. Your heart is beating out of your chest. Yeah, it's a lot to get up there, and especially twice in one day. So I think, considering that, you did great. And there's always a takeaway from every fight, even from losses. There's big takeaway. I'm sure you took that experience from there and brought it back to your own club. Speaking of
Yep.
which, so Fred is a local fighter out of Newfoundland and Labrador. I train out of Rock Athletics, and Fred used to come over to our club quite a bit and train there. He used to also train with another guy, Chuck McCarthy, who was also a member of the national team and won at Worlds as well. So Fred has quite a bit of experience and trains with like pretty high level fighters, I'd like to say myself. He's had a fight against me and lost, right, Fred?
I was Stephanie. I was gonna go there. And let you have that one. But yeah. So like Stephanie
Well,
talks about
well, at least say it's close.
learning from your fight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say it as it is. So learning from your experiences and your fights. And my very first fight was against you. In a point fight event.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing what to expect, and this definitely gets put in our division, and my coach looks at me and kind of says, don't give her much room. So the nerves set in right away, and there's something to be said for that, because your nerves will overtake your entire fight, will drain every bit of energy out of you. And even at one point, I'm pretty sure you had me turtled up in one side, trying to smack me around pretty good. So
Me?
it was fun
No.
times, But like honestly, I learned a lot just from that, and that's starting
Yeah.
on, right?
And look how far you've come since then. I mean, congratulations on opening up your new gym. Did you want to talk a little bit about your new gym and why you decided to open up a kickboxing club?
Sure. So a startup club in the midst of COVID. However, in here in Newfoundland, obviously, we were doing really well. They were allowing us to have these events and so on. So I started a club called Warrior Elite Kickboxing. My first registration netted about 50 people. So I have 50 students right now. And then, of course, we've now run into COVID and we've shut us down from recreational sports. So I've decided, as of last night, I had my first Zoom class with my students, so that
Nice.
they're not being left out. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to continue some of these kids came from other clubs. They've been training since they were 6, some of them, and are now 12, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to see those guys left out.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep them now. So we're videoing 2 or 3 times a week, and keep pushing them. Some of them will be doing grading coming up in May, I think, if COVID allows it. But yeah, so that's where I'm to right now. It was short-lived in person, but you know, the wonderful world of video. Here you and I are having a chat, and so it works out.
Well, exactly. Yeah, COVID has definitely been really hard on small clubs, kickboxing clubs, dance clubs. It is really difficult, and a lot of people are having a hard time hanging in there. But by the sounds of it, you got a little plan B going on, and some Zoom classes are a great idea. It's a good way to keep the kids sane, keep them active, making
Yep.
sure that while they're stuck in the house, they're still getting their bodies moving and they're not losing out on technique and stuff. So
That's
I
right.
think it's great that you're able to provide the Zoom classes and, you know, be there for your students, that kind of thing.
Well,
What
we all
is
know
it?
mental health too. Like you said,
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's big, and especially this day and age with kids, they're struggling with so much pressure. You know, there's so much. It's not like when I grew up. You know, if you had a problem with someone, you couldn't go on social media and, you know,
Mhm.
bash them around. You know, you
Yeah.
had to pick up the phone and actually hunt this person down, and
Mhm.
you know, and you had a beef with them. You had a beef with them. That was it. Well,
Yeah.
now with social media, it's just, you know, they can say what they want, they do what they want, and you know, it's got to be hard on them. So you know, I really want them to have that ability to uh, be right now, especially where we're all locked up again. They're in their own. You know, a lot of these kids will stay in the rooms, they'll play video games, they'll do whatever.
Mhm.
But when they used to go to the club, they were forced out of the house sometimes, and they came to kickboxing. So now I figure if I keep with the video, and they'll at least they'll have to train. Uh, I've I've even dragged their parents into uh, classes now. So every next Thursday or Friday, I have a class with the parents and the kids together. So they'll be in for a surprise, and we'll work through it anyways.
That's a great way to bond with your kids, though, when you think about it, doing something like that. I mean, a lot of people are really hesitant to get into kickboxing. A lot of people view it as like a dangerous thing to do and an uncontrolled thing. Can you speak to a little bit about that and like what you tell parents when they're interested in signing their kids up for class, but they have a little bit of hesitation in doing so?
So like I said again, when I started, my son actually joined up first. Um, we did I think our very first belt test was done together, and he was probably 8 years old at the time. He's small, so you know, but here I was going for a yellow stripe in taekwondo, just as he was, and you know, obviously a massive age difference, and so but that was the big thing putting him in there, was we wanted him in particular to be able to defend himself, to be able to have the confidence in particular to know that if he was being put in a situation, was that he could handle it. A lot of parents, obviously, they look at kickboxing and they say, you know, they're afraid of what's going to happen to their kids, concussions, you know, and rightfully so. It depends on the situation. It depends on what kind of sport that they're going to play. So, like, you know, if they're going to start out doing point fighting, there's very little risk. You know, you watch these kids, you know, and we officiate, and we watch them go, and they'll, you know, they strike hard, they do this stuff, but I mean, they're well protected. Um, in time, you know, they'll make their own decisions and decide that they want to go a different route, want to be able to go harder. They may do full contact, but starting out for kids, the risk is minimal. Our kids, I've instructed kids, 4 to 6 year olds, and we had them start sparring right from the get-go, because first of all, it eliminates even a little bit of fear that they have, and then it just builds and builds on their confidence. And I've met kids that started classes at 4 years old, and like I said, to this day, they're with me training still to this day. Um, they have no fear. They don't get bullied in school, and a lot of it is the confidence that they extrude themselves, I find. When you talk to them, they can speak. They don't hide behind anything. They're not afraid to speak out. So yeah, when it comes to kids, they're protected. They've got all the equipment in the world. So
Well,
I'd like
exactly.
to see more parents keep going and get their kids into this, right?
Yes. And we have like a lot of similar questions from parents at our club as well, or even women who are really hesitant to try because they think, oh, I don't know, I might hurt myself. That sounds dangerous. But we like are constantly reassuring people like it's a controlled environment. You're not just like thrown into a class of sparring, it's you sort of work your way up there. First, you learn the technique. You do a lot of the cardio kind of stuff. You get a skill set and then you build from there. And also in Newfoundland, we're almost every single club here in Newfoundland is certified with WACO Canada. So I know your club is in the process of doing that, but you yourself and me and also the coaches at my club have all done things like WACO's certification course for coaches. We've done the certification course for refereeing, for judging, for being a chief officiate. And because each time that brings a new element of learning, a better understanding of kickboxing, but it's things that you can pass on to the kids who are coming up. So for example, I had no idea about the return to play policy for concussions. As an athlete, I had no idea what the right protocol was because I'd never had a concussion in kickboxing, thankfully, up until the point that I got that certification course with Maz. But learning what the proper protocol is for getting a kid back to kickboxing classes and eventually back to sparring and then eventually back to fighting is ultra important. It's also another reason why like there's so many safety aspects in the sport now that it is regulated, that really parents have no need to worry. Like there's no more of a risk for your child to do kickboxing or kempo or karate as there is for them to do basketball or rugby or any other type of sport.
I was going to say the same thing. When you look at hockey in particular,
Yes.
Yeah, the kids they're well protected. They've got all their equipment on, and I mean, at the end of the day, they get hit into the boards. They get, there's always a level of risk, but it's mitigating that risk
exactly
and having it at control. So in hockey, you can't control everything. In a club, especially kickboxing martial arts, the instructors have a much higher control over what's going on in the room versus say a hockey game. The kids are there, you're standing on a bench yelling at a child that's outgoing. In our club, when you speak, the kids listen. They stop what they're doing. You're walking around the room, you're within reach of the child. If you see someone's getting aggressive, you can control every bit of that, because at the end of the day, yes, it's kickboxing and yes, it's a contact sport, but your goal is not to have your kids hurt. It's you want them to build confidence, not build fear, because they're getting hurt.
Yeah, so, it's the same. It's the same thing with us. Like as adults, when we're sparring, like if I'm training for a fight and you're training for a fight, We do what's called like technical sparring. So you're not trying to take your partner's head off. You're working together to make sure that you're using all the tools in your toolbox, and so that you're training properly, so you're not becoming injured or having a concussion before your fight. Yeah, you do have some sparring that's a lot heavier, but it's not like you're going to go in and inspire a 110-pound girl and try to take her head off, nor is one of the heavyweight experienced guys at our club going to try and take on a guy who's been to 5 kickboxing classes. Like it's just smart training basically.
Sure. And we've done it where, you know, we made most of our training to be cardio related. So even though you're sparring, you may do, say, 5 to 10 rounds, and literally have 2 or 3 partners just continuously switch in and out of the ring, just to push you past your limits, not to, like I said, tire you out and then beat your head in, like you're saying. You know, you're trying to just push yourself to your limits to train for that event.
Right.
When the time comes that you're in a fight, well, then it's different. Obviously, you're there to win a fight, and you're going to hit hard. You're gonna, you know, hit strong. You're going to do all those things. But right now, it's strictly about making it through your fight. So if you have a 5-round fight or a 3-round fight, last thing you want to do is gas out.
Yeah.
Let alone get your head knocked off. So.
Oh, 100%. You learn a big life lesson when you gas out in a fight, because cardio means a lot when it comes to a fight. A lot.
Sure.
And you might hit hard, Fred, but I hit harder.
It goes to your mental game. Your mental game goes. But again, your mental game, once you start losing your cardio, you start losing your mental ability to think. You know, it then affects your cardio even more. So yeah, they just I would rather train mostly cardio. Obviously, sparring is the best training you can have, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to getting ready for a fight. And having multiple partners is great too, because everybody fights differently. You know, you and I may spar a certain way. You know, myself and Chuck used to spar a certain way. You get a good variety of people, but at the end of the day, it's just to keep pushing and make that cardio as top notch as you can, because then at least your mental ability to continue, when you get tired, you can say to yourself, okay, I've been here before and I know I can finish this.
Definitely. Let's jump over to another question that I'm often asked by people who are just getting into kickboxing, or who are interested in getting into kickboxing. And that is there any rankings in kickboxing? Is there a belt system in kickboxing? Did you want to talk? You start us off and talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I came from a Taekwondo background. So obviously there's a set ranking system for that. There's a number of years that go in between each ranking. Then you're obviously how hard you train, how much you attend classes, and so on. So for kickboxing, there's not an established grading system as such. However, I think Waco has been working on a curriculum. I know you interviewed Maz here week before last, maybe, and he even brought it up as well. That they've got some things coming up where they're going to be looking at curriculums for for gradings and that kind of thing. Obviously, having a goal, only makes your training better. I taught just fitness kickboxing as well, and I always did a grading system for, say, hand wraps for colors, so that people would come to class and eventually would do a testing, push them to their limit, and they had something in their hand that says, you know, Matt, I put myself through this, and here's my reward. You know, I would love to see a full grading system for kickboxing, obviously, considering that's where I'm too. All the kids, they kids love to have something to achieve at the end of the day. So yeah, I would like to see that happen. Um, the grading system for kickboxing obviously would vary from taekwondo, say, because taekwondo, karate, kempo, they all have their patterns, they have their forms, and all those things go into the rankings. With kickboxing, obviously, you don't have any of that, but there is a way to keep grading people throughout the years and keep pushing them to achieve a certain goal.
Yeah, we had a little system like that in place too. And my coach, Robbie Wasman, like said it was great for like keeping people motivated, because like you'd go from, I think it was like green hand wraps to yellow hand wraps, and every system sort of had a different accomplishment. So it is it's a good incentive. And like you said, it's all about making goals and pushing yourself to achieve them.
For children, it's harder as well. Like
Yes.
children, for an adult, you can push yourself um, to keep going, because your achievements will be based on, um, I'm going to compete. Did I win or lose? Those type of things. But for a child, it's different. Like I said, we used to have 4 and 6 year olds. Uh, there was no real belt system for that age group, so we actually had our own as well, so that they would get stripes and they would have additions to their belts. So at the end of the day, when belt testing day came and they did all their things and they got that that award, they were ecstatic. And next week they were coming back and they had their belt on and they were so proud of the fact that they got this yellow stripe put on their belt. But
they're proud little faces.
oh yeah, and they're fantastic. They soak up the information.
What do you love about teaching and coaching little kids?
The little I really used to enjoy teaching the 4 to 6 year old group. They were so much fun. You could have, you could change your instructions up. They didn't question what you were doing. They would just eat it up. And we always tried to make it fun for them. Obviously, if you martial arts can be a bit strict, and for a 4 or 6 year old, they don't want that. Now their parents may want it. Their parents probably love it. But when they come into your class and they know that they have to sit down before class, they can't go running around the club, those kind of things. I mean, they already understand that there are rules.
Yeah, it's definitely helping them, like teaching them discipline.
Right, sure. Same with self-defense. We used to do little self-defense games type of thing for the kids as well. And they would just soak it up. They had so much fun. Of course, then they were all talking about going home to their brothers and sisters and, wanting to take mom or dad's leg and try to twist them up,
I really can't blame these kids.
No, hey, it's so much fun.
I'm like, you're speaking to my soul.
Right. I started maybe 2 years ago, I really started looking at coaching. My age is catching up with me quickly. Not that I have the mind of a 25-year-old, but it just ain't cutting it anymore. But
so now's the time to fight again. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, listen,
rematch between me and you?
I won't stop till the time comes. There will be a time, But I have a couple of guys in the club. I have I think one guy's 54 years old, and he still competes when we're allowed with COVID. Still competes at the local level.
Look at Doug Elton.
He loves it. Doug's 60-something years old now, and he's
everybody knows Doug. I mean, he's such a huge presence in the kickboxing community in Newfoundland and Labrador.
fights hard. Like he has no,
Yes.
he'll go in with me and spar, and you can't give him an inch because the man is 60 something years old. You cannot give him an inch because he'll make you pay.
Doug still blows my mind sometimes because I'll be all like laxy daisy sparring. I'm like, okay, nice light sparring now. And out of nowhere, Doug whips up a kick and you're like, oh yeah, all right, let's go, Doug. Let's go. Yeah.
But no, the kids are, like I said, I like instructing the kids. But like I said, a couple years ago, I got into actually trying to become more of a coach. An instructor is one thing, but a coach to me is actually a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
I took a team to nationals 2 years ago, I think it was now. It was my first time actually like coaching a group at an event like that. It was so rewarding. Like I think at the end of it, we came out of there with one person having a national title. The other two were like silver medalists and then a bronze. For me, watching them, reminded me of why I did all this.
Mm-hmm.
I to see their face when they won only reminded me of how I felt back in that time, right?
Yeah.
So it just really started pushing me to wanting to do more of that. With the club now, in time there'll be a competition team. I have some young students that are probably now 12, 13 years old that I'm looking to groom for the national team to be able to go to the junior worlds, and let them experience everything that I've been able to experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fred, you're a second degree black belt. So I know like when we went to Pan Americans, I think it was, you and Chuck were kind of like joking around and telling some stories about your black belt testing. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our black belt testings were fun, to say the least.
Insane.
They went over a few days. We had one day of strictly, I'll say, exercise stuff, push-ups, sit-ups, running. We have a time limit run that you had to complete.
So you have to get like a set amount of push-ups, a set amount of sit-ups. You have to run like so many sprints before like the buzzer in order to get on to the next level, right?
That's right. So your first, like you say, your first day is strictly cardio driven. There's not a whole lot of rest time. You're pushed and pushed. A lot of that obviously is to see, what your mental capacity is for it. Anybody can give up. If I have to do 50 push-ups, anybody can give up at 25. Is that what you want out of your goal? Your ultimate goal is get your black belt, but do you want to stop because of a push-up or 10 push-ups or 20 push-ups? So it's a grueling process on the first day. The second day, which was then a few days later after you recuperated from your first day, went on to doing forms, doing again more exercise. It usually takes 2-3 hours long for the second part. You're sparring multiple people. Your rounds are done so that you're fighting a fresh person every new round, back to back. There is no break. And
how long?
Usually about 10 minutes with no break.
10 minutes straight of sparring.
Every 2 minutes is a new person, and your last 2 minutes is usually 3 people, 3-on-1. And again, it's to push your mental capacity.
I'm really mad now.
3 people. Stephanie, if you're in a dark alley somewhere and 3 people jump you, do you honestly believe that you can defend yourself against three people?
It would be hard, but I think
Right.
three average dudes, I think I got it. Listen, and it's cool that you do that training too, though. Like Robbie's telling me a little bit about it also, like the 3-on-1, 4-on-1, that kind of thing. I think it's cool and different. I've never done it myself, but I think it's good for self-defense. But Chuck said he was going to watch this tonight. Chuck, I can't believe you did not call me for this 10 minutes straight of sparring. You could have put me in at the last 2 minutes to fight Fred. It would have been perfect. So sad. So sad. That would have been the ultimate test for you, Fred.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
10 minutes straight. That's crazy.
That's what I needed there.
And then I guess you guys like
and
have
you do
to go
board
through
breaking and stuff too as well, which is fun.
Cool. And like I suppose you have to go through all your kicks.
So you do board. Yeah. You keep going.
And obviously you passed, so now you'll be going for your 3rd degree, right?
Yeah, I'll be doing hopefully a 3rd degree sometime in the future.
Amazing. So what would you have to do for that that's different than the other gradings? Fight 20 people at once?
It all depends. I hope not. No, not at this age, no.
That would be intense for sure.
No more fun to that. They, again, there's in Newfoundland for Taekwondo alone, there's 8th degree, 9th degree. These people have been doing this since they were probably teenagers, and they're now in their early 60s. So it's a long journey if you want to take it.
Yeah. Awesome. So recently myself and a few of the guys at the club have been obsessed with Cobra Kai. Have you seen this show? It's a martial arts like drama show, basically. It's based off Karate Kid.
Teen drama, yeah. Let's go into high school and
it's so good. You don't find it good?
Royal inside the school. Yeah.
It was sick. I loved all the fight scenes. I think I watched the entire first season in like one day. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. The fight scenes are pretty good, all the same when you think about it.
Yeah, they made it like semi-realistic. Other than like the scene in the high school, and those were a little exaggerated, but overall, like you can see some decent technique from some of the actors. But the question I was going to ask you is, who do you think would win a fight, Johnny Lawrence or Daniel LaRusso?
I have no clue. Are we talking now, or are we talking like?
We're not talking like the actors. We're talking like, okay, well, back in the day, Johnny lost to Daniel LaRusso. Remember in the big tournament that was?
You're talking about right now.
Yeah, I'm talking about right now. Is they're old men like you?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think I gotta go with Johnny Lawrence.
I really don't know. It would be. I think it would be interesting to watch at this point.
I feel like it's coming at some point in this show.
Yeah, in the show, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
There's a difference in this show and real life, eh?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing about like fighting at Worlds and stuff like that is there's a lot of different categories that you can fight in. There's like full contact, there's low kick, there's K1, there's light contact, light kick, like I myself really like fighting low kick and full contact. So low kick would be kicks below the belt. So think like thigh kicks, that kind of thing, that you really need to like learn to condition your shins for. And now recently it seems like in the media, everyone is talking a lot about calf kicks. UFC is sort of popularizing it again.
Yeah.
Nasty kick to take, that's for sure. I'm sure you've had a few shin-on-shin collisions yourself.
Yeah.
Training in Taekwondo, that's big on kicks. And there's a few big UFC fighters now bringing like that style into UFC. What is your favorite kick and why?
Oh, Um, so in Taekwondo, there was no leg kicks. It was all
There's
above the waist.
not? It's all above the
So
waist?
no, all above the
Oh,
waist. Yeah. So I had my favorite kick would be a spinning back kick. I've uh,
that's a good one.
I've landed it on a number of occasions in tournaments and finished fights with it. It's
It, it's a good kick. It's a powerful kick too.
it's a good kick. It's powerful. If you hit it at the right angle, it can do some pretty good damage.
I landed it in Budapest at the Waka Worlds actually on
Yeah.
my opponent. Sadly, I didn't knock her out or finish the fight on top, but I landed that one great kick.
Right? Yeah. No, I think I think that was another thing I really enjoyed about kickboxing was that for us, we were never used to that. Training Taekwondo, well, again, it's all above the waist. But then, and we were able to do that at an event because there are so many different, like you said, so many different divisions. You know, your light contact division is strictly above the waist, so that kind of catered to my style at the time. Um, then I think when I went to no, so even at Pan Am's, I still fought at that level without leg kicks. But now, since getting really into the kickboxing and introducing the leg kicks, it gives you a whole different aspect, something else to worry about when you're sparring. Because now you can't, it's not just, watching a person, at this level. You're having to watch, the leg kicks, those kind of things. For, again, my age group, we're not allowed to fight at, say, full contact level anymore. But it's still a very competitive level. There are a lot of exceptional fighters. The veteran divisions are usually really technical, because of that. You're not in there trying to just, throw the big haymaker or throw a big punch to knock someone out. You had to be quick. You had to be aggressive. Um, you mentioned about Chuck. Chuck fought at Worlds in Budapest and went up against some major talent out of Hungary and those places. And even for him, he said it was the level that he fought at out there was absolutely insane. And I wasn't able to make the Budapest trip at the time because of work issues. But I've been waiting to go again. I had that opportunity once. I want that again. I want the opportunity. I want to, obviously, like anybody else, I want to go to win. But I also want to show my students that it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. If you work hard enough, you can achieve anything you want to achieve.
True. Super true. So speaking of wanting to do it again, as I'm sure you're aware, November of this year is the Waka Worlds again, this time being held in Russia. Do you think that's going to go ahead? Is that something that you're looking at doing? It's something that I'm considering doing myself.
I would love for it to go ahead. I don't personally. I will be surprised if it happens. We canceled our nationals got canceled last year. I think this year they were scheduling for June, July-ish. I could be wrong, but unless we get a hold of COVID, it would be a hard thing to do and go there. Then to try to have your mind set on fighting and not worrying about getting sick or that kind of thing. So I don't think I would put myself to that level unless, like I said, again, there were things were looking up.
Yes. And
but I
fingers
would,
crossed for amateur
I
fighters,
am,
they start to.
I'm dying to go again. Like, I love the experience. I really want that opportunity. But again, I have my kids too, so their junior worlds would be next year. Um, so yeah, I could live vicariously through them and hope for the best. No, but yeah, it's one of those things that I guess every amateur fighter, that's your big event.
Mhm.
You know, you go to worlds, you win worlds. It's a major accomplishment. I won
Yeah.
nationals in 2017, I think it was,
Yeah,
and
same year I won
yeah,
2
right,
title belts. Yeah.
yeah. So again, like that that alone for me was just a major thing. You know, I've won local events. Nationals was the next, obviously the next progression. Like
Mhm.
I went to worlds first, I guess, to get that out of the way. But you know, having that experience at nationals again, having a bigger stage, you know, you're in a ring and there's all these people watching. People don't understand how unnerving it can be, especially for an amateur fighter. You know, professionals have sports, you know, sports therapy. They have sports psychology. They have all this avail to them. For an amateur fighter, you know, it's usually your coach, and that's the person you rely on to help you through all that. So yeah, it's something I want to keep pushing with the kids, uh, to get them to that level. Excuse me.
Of the couple of times that you've traveled with the national team, what is like a standout memory? And what's something that you took away from some of your fights there? Like, what's something you realized you need to improve on, or something you realized was working really good?
Um, I guess my biggest thing came from a local guy uh, here as well. When I started wanting to compete, there was, you know, your guys' club and our clubs all used to have these, you know, little local tournaments. But for me, I was always considered a veteran because I was probably at that time, probably, you know, 38, 39, 40. Um, so when I used to go to tournaments, my only competition were 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds, you know, and that kind of thing. So I had to learn real fast that I had to work twice as hard to maintain the level that these guys would compete at. Also, having a Taekwondo background, um, I had to learn to use my hands a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I could kick fine and that kind of thing, but learning to control your energy through using your hands versus your legs sometimes, those kind of things. And so again, I had a local fighter coach me at a tournament, um, against a guy who was way more experienced than me. Um, and we went 3 rounds, but I was following his direction the entire time as to how to do this. Pick certain times to use your hands, pick certain times to use your legs. And when the fight was over, I found the difference in my energy level was substantial compared to when I first started, and I would try to like really push and say, um, trying to kick and kick and kick and kick, and then get totally exhausted, and then have to mentally get through the rest of the rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So I don't know if you know, but tonight there's some UFC on. So I'm really excited to see Macy Barber versus Alexia Grasso. So Macy Barber is like an up and comer female fighter, but she's a savage. And one thing we were just talking about is the advantage of being so young. She's only 20 years old. Right now, she's looking at being like beating John Jones for being like the youngest flyweight female champion. So she's really like looking to make a statement in this fight. She came back after an ACL tear, which is, I'm sure, as you've heard, not just in kickboxing, but a lot of sports, ACL tears can really take a toll on your career, but she seems to have bounced back from that. She got a couple of really notable wins, once again against Canadian Jill Robertson, JJ Aldrichs, Hannah Cyphers, and I think she's definitely got tonight's fight. I think she's sort of like myself. She's a big risk taker. She's very aggressive. The only thing that might stop her in tonight's fight, I think, is that the fact that she is such a big risk for big reward type fighter.
Yeah.
So she does what I often do, as I'm sure you know, which is come straight on. She got a bullseye for your head. She's looking to headhunt kind of thing. And when she does that, she leaves her chin on a bit of a platter, right? Hands down, coming forward, super aggressive. So I think as long as Alexia doesn't catch her with a lucky shot, I think she really is probably going to come out on top tonight. So for everyone, pardon?
MMA too. MMA is, to me, there's so much skill level, but sometimes it's just that, like you said, that lucky shot.
It's true.
If you're aggressive and you fight a technical fighter will, chances are going to pick you apart, because you're going to leave yourself exposed all the time too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said, it's anyone's game in any kind of a fight. You always have to come prepared and never underestimate your opponents, because it can be anybody's lucky night, even like an underdog, and sometimes those are the good fights, the ones that we really tune in for, is the underdog coming up and over. But tonight I'm really excited to see Macy fight. I think she's a really great fighter and a great up-and-comer for sure. So I can't believe it, but we've managed to fly through an entire episode. Did you have a shout out or anyone, or did you want to shout out to your club again before we
sure
leave our viewers?
So again, all the students at Warrior League Kickboxing, I just want you all to know that anything is possible. Just keep setting your goals, setting them high, and we'll keep pushing to achieve them.
Thanks so much, Fred, and I appreciate you being on tonight. This show, Champions Corner, can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. The H.E.R Network is part of the Spanglish World Media Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you next week for Champions Corner. Thanks, Fred.